But let me just bring you back a moment. There is beauty in this, and this is it. This was not an ordinary crucifixion. They had them every day. This was not an ordinary case of a Roman execution. They had them all the time. The Persians invented crucifixion. The Romans perfected it. They perfected it, and I tell you, I did a study on it, and it was really sick what you actually went into and looked at the ways you could cause more pain and more brutality and more death and prolong it for longer so that this person would suffer the most before they died. And that's basically what they did. And this wasn't an ordinary crucifixion. You see, for number one, Jesus never once spat, cursed, fought it, hit back, spoke back, tried to defend himself, tried to justify himself in front of other people, tried to make himself look better so that other people would feel bad for what they're doing to him. He didn't once try to do any of that. I do. But he didn't once try to do any of that. He submitted to the cross. And it was that made it not an ordinary crucifixion. His submitting to it and going through it for a greater purpose was what made it an extraordinary crucifixion. It's what brings us what's known as the wonder of the cross. The wonder of the cross was not that it was a cross and it was horrible and it was a nasty punishment. It was the fact that Jesus willingly submitted himself to it. That's the extraordinary in the ordinary. That's why the centurion at the base of that cross said, truly this was the Son of God. The very heavens went dark. The earth shook under their feet. The whole of creation testified to who he was. And so the wonder of the cross is, this was an extraordinary, ordinary moment. The two next to him were ordinary. The one in the middle was extraordinary in what he did. And it says this: how many of you want your friends and family to know Christ? I heard something interesting the other day. I was listening to a guy, Richard Taylor, I think his name was, and he said something fascinating. He said, why is it that we constantly try and cover up our wounds? They will know Christ by his wounds. They will know Christ by your wounds. And I thought it was interesting because we live in a very faithless generation. I do the whole philosophy on faith. The amount of faith in this generation is increasingly worse. You know, they won't believe in anything anymore. Utterly faithless. And it's interesting that for Thomas to see who Christ was, he said, I have to see the wounds. I have to put my finger in the wounds. I have to touch the wounds. And until I see those, I won't believe. And so if you are going to lead people to Christ, you have to be not only willing to go through the sufferings, but actually to reveal your wounds. This is what I endured. And I'm out the other side, but this is what I endured. And so I would say that if you want to be extraordinary in the ordinary, you must be willing to bear your wounds, not only bear your cross. So let me ask you a question. What is your cross? You know, I mean, God doesn't give you a cross of wood and tell you, right, out you go. And we're not got a kind of a box outside with 150 crosses that you all get to carry out this evening, I'm afraid. Although it would have been interesting. But what's your cross? You know, is your cross a child that has completely rebelled against what's going on? Is your cross that child says things which are incredibly hurtful to you, and you love them and love them and love them and die daily inside for their sake because you don't want to push them away even further than they are? Is it a husband that's constantly critical to you and puts you down all the time and is constantly comparing you to somebody and saying, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough? Is that your cross? Is it a wife that runs off to everything and never spends time with you? Is it a ministry area where the committee just don't get you and they don't understand your heart And no matter how many times you try and share it, they're constantly ridiculing you, going against you, putting you down. And in the midst of it all, you're trying to follow God's will? Is it that there's something that's gone on in your life and other people point to it and say, look at that, look at the mess you've made there. That's just humiliating for you. You should be ashamed of yourself. Is it a sin that's been exposed and you walk daily with the memory of it and people mock you and beat you with it and whip you with it and you carry it and you carry it and you carry it? Don't make fun of other people's crosses. Don't mock somebody else's relationship because it's not working very well. Don't mock someone because they're going through some struggles in their mind and they can't get over them. Don't ridicule a minister or a pastor or somebody working in a church because their kids aren't all perfect. And don't beat the kids up because of criticisms you have for somebody else. Don't mock a church because of some of the people it carries. Don't mock a friend because of the cross they're carrying and the burden they're carrying from a father or a mother. And don't mock a father or a mother because of the burden they carry, which is their children. Don't mock another's cross because you become the person that says you don't have to put up with that. And you do it by manipulating their feelings. Or why don't you just get rid of them? Why don't you turn them away? To be frank, at that point, Christ could turn around to you and say, get behind them, Satan. Because you have become the rock that tries to steal them away from carrying a cross. See, what's the good thing about the cross? The good thing about the cross is it crucifies the flesh. It teaches us about how to deal with our pride. It teaches us about how to walk with an integrity. It teaches us about how to leave aside some of those things which weren't important. And there is a greater purpose in this world than just those dreams, those thoughts, and those things. And the ones that are good, the ones that are wholesome, the ones that are God's plan, the cross won't destroy them anyway. It also teaches you to be faithful through pain. And when you are faithful through your own pain, you are in a position to be faithful and help somebody else with theirs. You are in a position to be faithful and help somebody by helping them to carry their cross. And only when you have been through your own circumstances are you in a position to do that properly without trying to wear a crown in the midst of it, but just knowing what it is to suffer. It teaches you to love the unlovable. If you are willing to love people while they mock you, if you are willing to love people while they reject you, if you are willing to love people while they beat you, love them while they heap insults on you, love them while they misunderstand you or take you for granted, love them while they abandon you, while friends betray you, and while people reject you, and you're still willing to love, then through carrying that cross, you learn to love the unlovable. And in doing so, you learn what love is, which is no matter what I see, I will still love. It means that you are more capable of walking past a man in the street that's digging stuff out of a garbage can so that he can find the good stuff to eat and love them more effectively. It means that you are more likely to be able to love your boss, more likely to be able to love others, and in some way, shape, or form, therefore, more able to share who Christ truly is, because he loves that person you hate as much as he loves you. Sorry if that upsets you, but God doesn't have favorites. He doesn't. He loves you this much. He loves you to the cross equally. He can't give any more for you.